Question 1145. Would you trade 10 years of your life to cut global carbon emissions by 40%?
Absolutely.
What? 40%?
Yeah.
No.
But trade it for what? I'm gonna live 10 years less.
Yes. You personally will live 10 years less, but global carbon emissions will be cut by 40%.
That's why this is a critical question, because I would definitely kill myself right now if I could cut global emissions by 100%. If I could kill myself, I'd do it. But yeah, okay, I don't know.
Am I the only one who's killing myself, or
No, you're not dying. You're only losing 10. You're only losing 10 years.
10 years
for 40%.
I have to think about.
Then he's doing the math.
Brainbug says yes. My kids matter more than me. Mathpig says yes.
Like 90s. I'm sorry.
Yes, because Mama Atheist would guilt face me into doing it.
True.
Oh.
Lone Wanderer has to restart her computer.
What did Mama say?
Oh, I missed that. Mama Atheist.
Oh, Mama Atheist says this is like a good idea to do.
Yeah, 40% would bring us back to pre-industrial levels and will eventually reverse climate change.
Okay,
Nerdy
well then, of course, okay.
Nerdy says no because everyone would just cock it up all over again. People are idiots.
Yeah, that's true.
I just want to get this straight. Am I the only one who does this, or
yes, you're the only one that does this.
Yeah.
You doing this cuts global emissions by 40%.
Oh, I
There has
do
to be,
it.
there
I
has
do
to be
it.
some kind of alien that comes down and just makes it happen with us getting somehow. Like,
Yes.
If
I really
that was
should
true,
just
if that was true, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
yeah.
Stool says, do I get to do the thing with my willy before I die 10 years too early? You've never done that thing with your
shut up,
willy.
Stool.
I doubt it. Tim, no. Ricardo says no.
So I have a question for Mama Atheist.
Go on.
Does Mama Atheist think that if we cut carbon emissions by 40%, that would be enough? That like the trees and algae and everything would be able to reverse global warming? Like, is cutting it by 40% enough to fix the problem? Because I mean I want to 100% fix the problem, but maybe 40% fixes it.
No, I can't imagine.
I don't think 40% is enough, but I might be misunderstanding.
But it would be a damn good start and give
Yes.
us
Well, that's the thing,
more
yeah.
opportunity to continue on and resolve it.
I mean, you can pick
I'm
two friends.
I'm gonna wait to see what Mama Atheist says.
Pick two friends. Pick two friends, and you might be able to get it down to 120%.
Oh my god. So
Yeah, I start thinking about if today, let's say, for some reason, Greta Thunberg was assassinated, and then we basically said, okay, drop global carbon emissions by 40% in her honor. Yeah, I mean, if that was me, if somebody would do that about me, I would do it. Absolutely. 40%, that's a lot for one person. For 10 years, easily.
Yeah. It's a definite start, but it wouldn't just fix it.
It's a trolley problem. Problem.
You know, I'm of the mind until we get into place of alternative types of fuel, it's not going to matter. So, the only stipulation would be like the movement to sustainable energy, options, whether it's hydrogen cells or solar, whatever we got to do. But right off the bat, I would say no for that reason, because we've already been down that particular rabbit hole. And I feel like with what I'm doing, I'm in a position to where I can change minds to where we can have change happen.
Would you do it if you were?
Go.
Would you do it if you knew it would be 80 to 90?
I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe. We have pretty good stock. Just like my family, they don't die until they're in their 90s. So it's like, what's 80 or 90 at that point? You're like, well, Alzheimer's runs in my family. So does heart attack and stroke and certain sects of that. But I try to minimize my risk. So it's one of those weird things. Unless there was some kind of standing agreement that we do not use fossil fuels again, then it's a moot point, in my opinion.
You wouldn't do it. I mean, the reduction of 40%, that means significant change to existing industrial infrastructure. That buys time. Is that not
does
enough?
buy time, but if there's no
Let's say
change, then
20
it's
If it
pointless.
buys 20 years, is that not worth 10 years of your life?
If it doesn't initiate permanent change, then it's not worth it, because then we'll be right back where we started again.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mel.
That's the only problem I have, unless there was some kind of legislation across the board and the world came to some kind of consensus that we need sustainable and renewable energy sources that didn't have a negative effect on the environment. Otherwise, it's great. It's a wonderful thing to say, okay, I would give 10 years of my life for that. But what does that really matter if we're going to end up in the same situation 25, 30 years from now? That really doesn't matter.
I would
Well,
do it if I
25,
could.
30 years from now, we have kids that are going through the education system now. So hopefully 25, 30 years from now, we'll have a voting bloc that will know better.
Have you seen
We
who's
have to wait for the old
president
people to
right
die.
now?
I would
Yes, and
I
you will
would
die.
do it if I
And
was
you- and
if I was
in
able
20
to
years,
take.
you'll die. We buy 20 years.
I have, so being a
I
science
think it's worth it.
communicator and science educator, and what I've had to deal with the public in general, teaching evolution in the Bible Belt and that sort of thing, you cannot rely on people to do the right thing just because it's the right thing to do, particularly when we're dealing with the current administration. People do not understand. It requires more than just one generation of understanding of this is the thing that's going on. It's a consistent effort, and that's
Yep.
You don't have to convince
the
me of
best
that.
right? I have one
You
too,
got to get them wearing these.
right?
Get them wearing these, and we'll talk. Yeah.
I know
Ricardo,
exactly.
I believe
That's
you.
what I mean. That's what I mean. So
Ricardo
until
says-
everybody's on board, it's not going to be an effective thing of change.
Well, that
until-
brings me
Right.
that brings me to my
40%
point.
sucks.
No, I would
Just wait.
do it
Wait. Ricardo says that's all
my
fun and
turn.
games. Just 2 secs. But climate change needs to be won in the public opinion before I would ever consider this question.
Exactly.
Well, see, that's
Jenny.
my idea. Is I would do it as long as I could take about 60 million Republicans with me.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
At
That'll
least
change-
the
that'll
ones
change
who are in
things.
charge of making all the laws.
This is why we need just 20 years. They'll all be dead.
So we did.
Not-
Don't wonder.
But
Yeah,
their children and the
that's what they
people
said 20 years ago, by the way.
around.
Yeah, I would do it.
Yeah, you do it. It's easy.
Oh,
Right.
if 4 of y'all do it, then I'll spend my time making certain we try to get laws in place. How about that?
Mel, can I ask you a question?
We're going to take one for the team, Mel.
No, wait a minute. Don Obhead says, what if we eliminated 40% of all humans instead? I mean, just for fun.
It'd be the same. It'd be like the
Can
same
we-
result.
Can we pick the 40%?
It'd be the same result. We kill 40% of the humans, and then they do the same shit again and reproduce. And
No, it
fuck
wouldn't be,
everything
though.
up.
If you killed off 40% of the Chinese and 40% of the population in Asia, it would have less
Oh,
of
I
an
was
impact
thinking
than if
you're
you killed
being
off 40%
racist.
in
Why
the
would
West.
I was thinking it'd be like.
Don't make
I was thinking it would be like.
Racist.
I was thinking it'd be like 2% Chinese, 2% Americans, 2%
Oh my
Canadians.
goodness.
No.
My point is, I was trying to pick the lower polluters
Okay, go ahead.
per GDP.
Slippery
I'm
slope.
not touching this.
So you're in favor of Dave? You're in favor of like genocide, I guess.
No, this is Dawn
Yeah,
Uphead. This is
They're
not me.
just
Hey, guys,
Chinese
this is
people.
genocide.
Oh my gosh. What was
I
your
wanted to-
question, Chad? You had a question. I'm sorry.
I wanted to
Chris
ask
had a
you a
question.
question, no, but go ahead, Chad.
Hmm?
Mel, I wanted to ask you because I'm like a huge like I hate climate change. Like I really want to fix it. I think it's one of the worst problems in the whole world. But for me to just die 10 years earlier to just bring it back 40%, wouldn't you think that would buy us like 50 years? And
It
then
wouldn't buy us 50 years, not at the current.
how many years?
rate.
What if it bought us like 5 years just for
It's-
you to die?
that's 5, maybe
More
5
years of
years
education.
at best. But the problem
I know,
we
but
run
like,
into,
But don't you feel like you're being selfish by not like if I could buy the world 5 years of time for all of the billions of people, like I would say if I could, yeah, I don't know, fuck it, yeah, kill me, man. to
I
buy
get
5
it.
years.
No, I completely get that argument. But
But
what's
I see what you're
the
saying. I see
point
what you're
in
saying.
doing that if there's no change
Yeah.
do
involved?
you have a very long term outlook, like
Yeah,
millions
I would
or
if
thousands of
I'm
years?
gonna do
I have
that.
like millions and thousands of years outlook. Like I think about space colonies and stuff.
Well, space colonies aren't gonna happen in 5 years. So,
No.
No, they're not.
I think about like millions of years, right? So I understand that, right? Like,
right.
yeah. So cutting it. So basically, I think the question sucks because 40%, I think you would agree, is the same as like 0%. It needs to be 100%.
Well,
And
40% would be great, and I would be willing to concede that if we, as a collective species, were to say we need to shift away from fossil fuels. But I'm not, in the current climate, in the way that people are behaving right now, I'm not convinced that they'd be willing to do that. And
I'd like
oh
to
no
rephrase-
way, absolutely
I'd
no
like to
way,
rephrase the
because of
question.
economic concerns.
But you just said that communist word, collective.
Yeah, I would like to rephrase the question though.
I'm here in
Because
communist Vietnam.
we agree
I'm a
that
commie. They're gonna burn me at the stake next
couple
week or
years.
something. I don't know.
Say again, Chad?
Yeah, but if we agree that it's going to collectively give us a couple of years, then I see it as additional time to educate people. And right now, people are already freaked out. And given that they haven't worked for the past decade, if we had an extra decade to make up for that, I would still consider that worth continuing.
But right now, education is working in both directions. The side that's trying to convince
Education
people that
isn't
it's not
working
real.
so
Yeah,
great
but
in
so
the
looks good on the
U.S.
dumb app, so it's okay.
We
But
are
dude,
a
you
hot
don't wanna-
mess. We're okay. All I'm gonna say is, if you look at the current figures from the National Science Foundation, we're getting dumber. Okay,
Yes,
we're not
that is
getting better. We were at 24% of the US thought that the sun revolves around the earth. That was a handful of years ago, like maybe 2. Now we're at 27%. 27% thinks the sun revolves around the earth. We're getting dumber. We're not getting smarter. Education, yeah, we don't funnel money into education. We don't funnel money into correct information. We don't do that. And where I work right now, we're having a drop in enrollment because people are worried about not being able to eat, not being able to feed their families, and working and that sort of thing with the current pandemic, because we had a person in office dismantle the very group that was meant to protect us from a pandemic. So it's like there's a lot of different things that are going. So until the people in power recognize the fact that we have a crisis, until they force people to say, hey, we're going to all die if we don't do this, until that actually happens, that facing the music, as they would say, happens.
Well,
all of that's not going to matter, because people are still going to drive their cars. They're still going to go not wear masks. They're going to still disregard everybody else. And that's the problem that we're seeing right now. So it's great. It's great to consider if I can buy 5 more years, but 5 more years isn't going to do anything if we don't take change seriously.
Yeah,
fair.
And
Mel,
that's
can I say 2 things about that really quick? Really quick, 2 things. Okay. Number 1, the people who are in power aren't worried about like the economic situation.
No,
they don't give a shit
care
about the environment. And then number 2, most people, I think all of us here are educated, right? So we can actually take a long-term outlook that goes beyond our own lives. Like I actually care about like 1,000 years in the future, but I would say, like 95% of people don't care. So that's the problem, right?
I live in Trumplandia. The day in 2016 when we had elections and I went and voted, I came back and a lot of my neighbors had Trump signs in their yard. I imagine that will happen again in 2020. And that's where we're at. It doesn't matter. I had people flipping me off at the post office because they wore a mask. It's just, I'm going to the freaking post office. I'm in a tiny freaking small town and people treat me like garbage. I offered to give out free masks and they said that I had an Antifa agenda and I was trying to indoctrinate people. I taught their kids biology. I was a high school teacher here and they questioned if I was a real person or not. So I'm like, I taught high school for 5 years to these people's kids, and they thought that, and they were
Oh,
like,
yeah, it
we
doesn't
need to
matter.
find out if she's a real person. It scared my mom. I had to delete myself off of Facebook groups and start blocking people. This is where I am right now. So it's very hard for me to say, yes, I will shave off 10 years of my life when I have people who would not accept a free mask from me because they thought I had an Antifa agenda and I taught their kids biology.
I live in a small town, a very small town of 900, and everybody wears their mask.
Woo,
Not
that's
a
very
problem
small.
here.
That's
Up here
good.
in Canada, there, where I am in Nova Scotia, PEI, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland have made what's called the Atlantic Bubble, and we've been compared to New Zealand in some sense. We've basically closed our borders for non-commercial traffic. So if you don't have a reason to come in, you don't come in. You get fined, mandatory masks. The police will arrest you. Like, the fact that people don't take this seriously is beyond horrifying to me.
Yeah, but it's a governmental
just-
problem. It literally the American government created this problem.
It is. It's selfishness run amok. It's this idea that it's toxic selfishness.
Yeah.
And
Right,
I got
need
to
to go.
The Trump administration caused this problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
Well, I mean,
fighting the government, which is people like Fauci and the CDC and
Yeah.
the deep state, as they say, that actually knows what they're doing.
science-educated people.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's
Yeah, it is.
scary.
Very scary. As a
I
Canadian,
mean-
I'm terrified about what's happening south of the border. I got to say, it's
So
legitimately terrifying.
It is terrifying, and now they're looking at Trump is wanting to put an executive order for patriotic education to
Yeah.
be taught to
I
kids in
saw that.
schools.
Oh God, it was
And I'm
bad.
like,
No,
this sounds a
re-education
lot like
camps.
Hitler's youth. I'm
Yeah.
just throwing that out there, but it's, you know, I would be in the streets, I would be protesting, I would be doing all of that, but I understand that where I'm at in my job right now, I have an opportunity to help people better their lives through education, and I can initiate change there. And so it's just what I've had to experience in just my own town. If I put a Biden sign in my yard, I would be afraid for my life because people on my street are Trump supporters and they have guns. I don't have guns in my house, but that's where I live. And so my mom is genuinely afraid for my safety and is like, you need to delete everything and pretend you're not part of these Facebook groups. She's like, these people are nuts. And so it's just, that's where I live. So I'm dealing with these people on a regular basis. And if there's no kind of caveat or it's saying we're going to initiate change, it's not worth me shaving off 10 years of my life because I work with people on poverty line and I help make their lives better. And if I can do that until I drop dead, I'm going to do that. That's just kind of how I feel.
If you enjoyed that, please hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. If you think you've got a better answer or just want to tell us how wrong we are, leave a comment down below. Subscribe down here for new questions every day and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on our live shows. If you click over here, you'll see our latest upload. Over here, for what YouTube thinks you'll love the most. And finally, for a complete playlist of all our currently released questions, click here.